This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 67. Welcome to Comic Geek Speak, brought to you in conjunction with WorldFamousComics.com. Your spot on the internet for the best comic book and entertainment-related columns, contests, features, reviews, news, resources, and more. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm Matt.
I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Jamie D.
I'm Peter Rios.
We are sexy bitches, yeah!
And welcome to the show. Before we get started, just a reminder that our October Book of the Month Club selection is Essential Tomb of Dracula, Volume 1 by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan. If you want to pick that up, you can do so. It's 40% off at InStockTrades.com. And I think it's $8.99. Yeah. And they also have discounted volumes 2, 3, and 4 for 40% off if you would like to get those as well. We are going to be recording that episode the final week of October. So if you want to send in a comment or a Geek of the Day or something about it, do so before the last week of October.
The last full week,
yeah. Right. So that only gives you like 2 weeks to start reading.
Born to drink your blood.
Where's everybody at on that book so far?
Issue 2. I have to start.
Issue 7.
I've read 4 issues.
I'm going to go into
Matt's is in.
I read the cover.
Yeah. Oh, I read the cover and the back cover.
Didn't you start reading it yet, Pete? I read the first 4 because I didn't get it until a couple days ago, and I'm going to read 2 more issues today, and then I'll finish it. I'm loving it so far. I'm totally enjoying it.
We got another episode. We got a whole episode. We'll talk about it. Relax.
I'm just saying.
What really fascinated me about the cover
was 2 episodes ago, we announced that Comic Geek Speak is the official comics podcast for the New York Comic Con, February 24th, 25th, 26th, New York City, Jacob Javits Center. We're going to be there, and we're going to have a whole bunch of things leading up to the convention. It's a really exciting kind of partnership. We're on the website, listed under sponsors, and also we're in their links section, where they're linking our episodes. And hopefully, as things start to roll along and they get more guests and more exhibitors and things like that, it's going to be more of a multimedia show. I guess that's kind of what Jamie said. It's going to be not only comics, but hopefully some book publishers and maybe video games and movies. I don't know So when we get those announcements, we'll bring those to you. And I'm pretty sure everybody's going, right? Yes?
Yep.
I mean, at this point, everybody's, So
I'm very jazzed.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Spend time in New York. We don't have to travel far. We're only 2-3 hours away, and it's just going to be great.
I believe even Murd said he's going to try to.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Adam's going to try to? Nice.
Oh, boy, we'll
nice.
have to have a trivia contest or something.
Yeah.
It's, beat Murdo.
The comic Rain Man.
Yes.
And we played on Friday night the trivia game.
Oh, he was here then?
I wish we should have had that on the air because, oh my God, that guy knew every friggin' answer.
I sat there. The one question I asked was, what was the formula that Doctor Strange used in the Marvel Universe around like 1984, whenever that was, that got rid of, all the vampires in the Marvel Universe? I guess Jim Shooter wanted to get rid of vampires and supernatural things. And I'm like, okay, there's no way he's going to know this. If he knows this, he's truly an ultra geek. And 2 seconds later, he goes, Montesi formula. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it.
He has instant recall. He doesn't even think about it. Just you barely finish it, and he's like, in his very dramatic, on stage presence because he was an actor in high school, and and he gives the answer, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, and when it's like the other team's question, he's like, I believe I have a guess for that.
That's right.
I think I can steal.
Yes. And it's like, oh.
So his geek food powers are amazing.
Yes, I bow before them.
That's what happens when I work. Miss a meeting. That would have been such a blast to watch.
It was fun.
Yeah.
So New York Comic Con, check it out.
So what the hell are we talking about?
We're going to do a whole bunch of listener emails today.
Are we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Plus, and also the announcement of the
manga contest, too.
Yes.
Oh, shit, let's do that first. I didn't have that written down. I'm going to write it down now that we're actually doing it. That's right. Just wrote manga
good thing to put on
my
the
paper.
list.
Yeah, so let's do that one first.
Let me find first here.
Do you have any
Jeez,
toy
one of
things
them?
while he's...
Yeah.
I am ready.
Oh, you have it
he's
ready?
right. All right,
Oh, good.
I'll do
Oh,
toys
yeah.
later.
We picked a winner of the manga contest. Woohoo! I was all that preparation just so I could say that. No, I don't have the damn file. Here it is. Here it is. I got it. Here we go.
Comic Geek Speak remorsefully presents 5 minutes of Manga! Hey everyone, welcome to 5 minutes of Manga. I'm your host, Manga Man, or Charlie, and this is my attempt to throw my hat in the ring for the contest for the manga or anime show, and mine is obviously manga, or manga, if you'd like to say. Maybe I should throw a quarter in the jar for that. Anyway, thanks for having me. And so I'm going to be discussing Japanese manga comics in my podcasts, and this week I've chosen an oldie but a goodie. Probably one of the first things that got me into Japanese comics, actually, which is My the Psychic Girl. It was originally published by Viz Graphics back in the late 80s, and it was about 28 issues, I think. Since then, they've collected it in like those little digest, the popular digest format that you can get everywhere. It's really a great, wonderful read. I'm going to try and, as I said, do this in 5 minutes. So it's originally written by Kazuya Kudo and Ryoki Ikegami. I hope I got that right. I'm going to be butchering all kinds of names here at 5 minutes of manga. Because here at 5 minutes of manga, we butcher everything like a good sushi chef. All right, so apologies to anyone if I've offended you. It's a great first foray into manga. The art is incredible by Ryoki Ikegami. Tons of those great, wonderful speed lines that you like to see. Lots of great flight scenes, lots of great fight scenes, lots of great fight and flight scenes, lots of wonderful explosions and cool chases and battles and everything, that like when I read it when I was a teenager, everything, you'd want. And it can get pretty graphic. There's some blood, a lot, some body parts and stuff exploding. And also even a little TNA, I must say, which is kind of weird because, it's like this 14-year-old girl is the star of the comic, and every once in a while you'll see her naked in a shower randomly, or she's always taking showers like they always do in these things. And you're always like, should I be looking at this? Should I be like, wait, maybe I should edit this part of the podcast. But anyway, despite that, it really is a fun read. The writing is really fast-paced. It goes into this whole girl's world that gets turned upside down when she gets these powers, and her whole life changes. Everything from her is removed from her life, and she must start anew and on this quest and this adventure to find out what she is, and pretty much does it alone. And I don't want to say too much to give it away, but there's some loss, and it's all about coming to terms too with your as a teenager, which is kind of cool too. So with your man or womanhood. So it's kind of neat in that sense, and it's also great because there's this organization in it, the villainous organization, the Wisdom Alliance, and they are trying to find Mai because she is so powerful, and of course she is one of the most powerful psychics they've discovered, and they then assemble these whole team of kid psychics. So not only, they don't find adults that do it because adults can't do it, it's kids that can do it, which is really cool. So you get all these kid battles just flying around these like skyscrapers, and a lot of it, when you look at it too, you'll think of the Matrix, which I'm sure those guys in some way were this was impressed upon them or something. But so it's really cool seeing all these kids, and are some of them friends? Do some of them become friends? Which ones are good? Which ones are totally evil? There's a German girl, which look out for. And, there's just all kinds of really great things that start to unravel about this Wisdom Alliance, and also Mai's history. So it's really a wonderful read. Again, the art's really great. I think each one of these goes for probably about, $14, $15. You might be able to find them for less, like if you look for eBay, especially the Viz stuff. If you can find the Viz stuff. I just had a friend tell me I think he picked up the whole thing really cheap on eBay, so check around for that. But this whole thing, each digest is probably about 300 and some pages, so the whole thing probably weighs in about 1,000 some pages. So it's a really great, fun read. Even when it ends, you're kind of like, well, that was a really cool ending, but I want to see more now, So definitely check that out. One of the other things I'm going to do here on 5 minutes of manga, I'm going to go over a term, a manga term, and kind of just like say, hey, this is what this manga term means. And so this week, since it's the first episode, I'm going to do the word manga. And the word manga is actually, if I remember correctly, it is whimsical pictures. So that's what it means. That's what it translates to. So that's kind of a cool thing to know about. And if I get to do more broadcasts or podcasts, my next one will be Blade of the Immortal, which is a more recent, wonderful addition to the manga world. And I'd just like to say thanks to everyone for listening, and thanks to Brian and the guys for having me. You guys are great, and we'll see you next time on 5 Minutes of Manga! Thank you.
It's funny.
Love it.
Oh, that was great. That was exactly what we were looking for.
So there you go. Hopefully we can look forward to more 5 minutes of manga.
Did you announce his name?
He said his name.
Oh, did he say his name?
Said
Anything?
Charlie.
Okay.
He never actually tells me his whole name. He's
keeping it secret.
Yeah.
In case. He's in the witness protection program.
We got okay, we're going to do some emails. So there was one that I wanted to read, and of course I forgot. I don't know which one it is. So I guess I'll just pick one here.
And this is just because we haven't quite got the letter column up, and we announced that contest 2 episodes ago, whatever there was. Quarters in the Jar one is our letter column title. So once we have that up, we'll bounce back and forth.
Plus, we're really damn lazy. We just didn't come up with anything for the show, so that's what...
Here's one. This is he says, "Hi guys, this is Sean Kimball from Park Rapids, Minnesota. I've just started getting into comics within the last few years. Right now I'm collecting JLA, JSA, the current Teen Titans, and the Outsiders from the DC side, as well as anything in the Ultimate hardcovers that comes out from Marvel. I just wanted to let you know what I've been doing while I listen to your podcast. I'm actually in a town called Fisher, Minnesota, up north of where I usually live, and last night was the first night of sugar beet harvest. This is the first year that I have driven a beet truck, and it's a pretty daunting task when you consider it weighs around 50,000 pounds when fully loaded with sugar beets. I'm a little behind the times on your podcast as I just finished episode 35 this morning. I plan on catching up to the current podcast fairly soon because we drivers are in our trucks for about 12 hours at a time. I just wanted to thank you for making the trips from field to the beet plant all the more enjoyable." So that's the first person we've known who's driving around sugar beets.
Oh, up there in Minnesota.
Most people are listening at work. He's listening in the truck.
Well, he's at work then.
Well, yeah, I mean, but, everybody's listening to us in our cars.
So welcome to the state
I
of
listen to it while I
Minnesota.
work.
Yeah.
I listen to ourselves while I work. Yeah.
Okay, here's one. It's from Daniel Cooney in Sacramento, California. He says, "Hello, gentlemen of Comic Geek Speak. I've been listening to your show ever since the podcasting through iTunes kicked in. The structure of your show is well thought out, unless you guys have the superhero power of winging it, and the various personalities keep the show from being more of the same. Congratulations. You have now made the big 3 when I'm penciling/inking comic books. The big 3 are music, movies, and podcasts where I work. Though sometimes I may take a moment when one of you guys gives me something to think about. Good stuff. I teach a sequential art class in the illustration department at the Academy of Art in San Francisco. I have an upcoming inking demo and want to have a discussion on various styles of inkers and their work. Do you have a podcast on your top 10 inkers in the industry? My angle is more a variety of styles and execution than a wizard's top 10 list. God, I hate those wizard top 10 lists. Sorry, didn't mean to digress there. My quick list consists of Claus Janson, Walt Simonson, Frank Miller, Bill Sienkiewicz, John Buscema, Terry Austin, Mark Farmer, and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, just to name a few. This list is more of a modern list, and I would like to get your feedback when you have a moment. Thanks for your time, gentlemen, and look forward to the next podcast." So, well, he mentioned some inkers there. Terry Austin always stands out in my mind as...
Did he say, when I was listening, I was trying to just go through it. Did he say Did he say Jerry Ordway?
No, he did not.
That's one of my favorites. I mean, he listed all the most recent favorites, but Jerry Ordway inking Byrne when he was doing the Fantastic Four there for a while was some really nice stuff. As far as the older stuff goes, it's tough because you got to remember a lot of those old, unless you're a real historian and go into some of the other places, a lot of that stuff, I mean, they barely recognize the writers and the artists on those old 50s, 60s books. I mean, you can look at, there are some books that have nothing in it. They drew and wrote themselves. So to find out some of the inkers, it's really tough. A personal favorite of mine is, and just because we know him, is Dan Atkins. If he wasn't good, I wouldn't say that. But if I look at some of his stuff that he's done, I can really tell when I look at it. I mean, he did Conan #1 with Barry Winsor Smith, and he was a big inker on the original Silver Surfer series, and he also worked with Wally Wood. So his pedigree is pretty good, and I like his stuff too.
I have a nice Batman drawing of him that he did at a con I was at once. It's full body Batman. It's very nice.
Yeah, so he's a good one too.
Scott Williams, if for no other reason than he's incredibly consistent with doing everything Jim Lee does and has a style. I don't know if I would say top 10, but he's certainly good.
Certainly one of my favorites when I think about it.
I mean, he doesn't. I don't think he takes away from Jim Lee's artwork. So he's certainly not screwing it up.
No.
I do enjoy Tom Palmer for what he did. A lot of his. I mean, right now we're reading the Tomb of Dracula, which he did a bunch of the inking on for Gene Colan. I don't like his stuff on some because unfortunately he's the kind of inker who doesn't always accentuate the artist. He kind of puts his own. You can tell it's like, ooh, that's a Tom Palmer inked book. You can kind of tell. But I've liked him on certain things.
I'm trying to think. You're over there studying?
Because we did an episode where we actually got an email that somebody yelled at us because we never mentioned inkers, and we actually went and named all the same people we just named. I can't find which episode it was. So
was it listed under the tracers?
What's that?
Was it listed under the tracer section? I'm joking. No, please.
There is an episode, and once we get that search function up on our website, that's gonna be great.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of if I can think of any more. That stand out.
I really like when artists ink their own stuff, like when they can ink their own stuff. Like a. Well, I mean, obviously, I'll say George Perez, obviously, but like even Bill Sienkiewicz, Sienkiewicz, his work needs to be inked by him, and
well, there's so many lines. If you tried to, figure out what was what, I think your head would explode.
I almost disagree because I think there are some artists that can't. I mean, I love John Byrne, but I do not like John Byrne inked by John Byrne.
Oh no, I'm not saying every artist. I'm saying there are a few that like Romeo Tango, or however you say his name, on. What are you doing?
Get a soda.
Romeo Tango on George Perez is good, but I think he takes a lot of Perez's lines away. When George does it himself, it's just better.
Well, and that's what I was saying was like Tom Palmer. He's an inker that doesn't. I agree with you. I think I've seen George inked by other inkers where his lines come out a little bit more than that. It's not so much his work, but others.
Right. There's a guy. I want to quick check the previews because whoever does the Tom Grummett stuff on New Thunderbolts, I like that.
I have to laugh that we now just refer to him as George most of the time.
Oh yeah, I cut that out. I wasn't about
Mr. P. It doesn't say. Come on, Marvel.
Because they're just tracers.
They're too busy worrying about the Son of M that's coming out. I don't know.
They have the writers and the pencils, but they don't have. That stinks.
So.
Yeah, if Kevin was here, he'd probably be able to rattle off a few more off the top of his head.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I mean, Terry Austin is the one that just always comes into my
Carl
head
Kessel.
as the big.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Hanna now is quite good. He was doing John Romita Jr. stuff on Thor and definitely on Amazing Spider-Man. I think he worked on him with Thor, and now he's doing Tom Rainey on that Ultimate thing or whatever. I think Scott Hanna's inking that, and he's always a very consistent, very good inker.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was funny that he lists Claus Janson because he's one of those guys where sometimes it's perfect, sometimes he completely ruins the page for me. He works a lot with John Romita Jr., and I love John Romita Jr.'s pencils, but then sometimes Klaus Janson comes in and makes it look like Klaus Janson's drawing it. And then it's like, no, you're supposed to... I know it's a balance, because a good inker... I almost think that a good inker shouldn't be a penciler. You know what I mean? Because some inkers, people start out at inking and then they become pencilers, or they're pencilers sometimes and inkers other times. But it's because then they have their own style of penciling, so then they change the shape and the inking is supposed to add some definition, some line, some shading or whatever.
I always think enhances, brings,
and that's where a guy like Terry Austin, I think, boom, he doesn't change the way that picture look. He just brings out the detail or whatever, and that's
What about which do you prefer? Do you prefer Alan Davis on Alan Davis or Mark Farmer on Alan Davis or Paul Neary here on
Mark Farmer?
Mark Farmer.
Yeah. I think they're the perfect. They're one of my favorite inker artist combinations. I just think he brings out. He lets Alan Davis's art come through. He's not covering it up. He brings the natural beauty out, and I'm just one who likes teams. Like I said, there are
Phil Hester and Andy Parks.
Yeah. Byrne and Austin, Byrne and Ordway.
Terry Austin always inked a lot of the Art Adams stuff too, right?
I believe so. I'm not sure. I'm not 100%
I think
sure.
I usually remember seeing his distinctive signature next to Art Adams.
A name that's been popping up because of a project we've been doing is Marlo Alquiza, who's he's the inker on Teen Titans right now. Alquiza. Alquiza.
Interesting.
And as far as teams go, I just saw another one. Where is it? Barry Kitson and Mick Gray.
I'm sure the listeners are now screaming at their iPods going,
"Oh yeah,
this guy!"
Yeah.
Dan Green. Who's the one? Oh, Carlos Pacheco and Jesus Marino.
Yeah, they work together.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sorry we couldn't be of more help there. Well, problem is you just named all the good ones, and so we just had to agree with you.
Yeah.
All right, we got another email from Catherine in Philly.
Catherine.
Hello.
She says, I'm currently experiencing the wondrous, nostalgic joy of watching the 1978 Superman movie on DVD. No snarky comments from you, Jamie. Some of us still believe a man can fly. Anyway, as I'm
watching... not
watching...
just say no snarky comments if you did one anyway. She's going to yell at you. Catherine, yell at her. Yell at him.
Yell at her?
She says, anyway...
Oh, man, over here.
Anyway, as I'm watching, I'm wondering two things. How close to DC Comics canon is this movie? Every movie takes liberties with superhero stories. What were some of the biggies here? And part two, what's the real story behind the cranky Kryptonian king of pleather? I'm talking, of course, about General Kneel Before Me Zod, leader of the S&M Brute Squad. What superbug flew up his superbutt to make him so ornery anyway? Does he actually even exist in canon? By the way, a good drinking game with Superman 2 is to drink a shot every time General Zod says kneel. He apparently has something of fetish with people being on their knees. Not that I'm making any kind of value judgment about that. It's something I'd expect from someone wearing so much shiny clothing anyway. Thanks for keeping us Marvel Zombies informed, Catherine.
It's funny.
So you guys tell me, because I was kind of wondering the same thing.
Yeah, he's in canon.
Mm-hmm.
He's part of the whole Superman mythos. General Zod.
Yep.
Stuck in the Phantom Zone. He would escape. He's not in any of that Silver Age stuff you're reading?
Not that I read so far.
Not that you read so
I've
far?
only gotten through 6 issues of it. It's
Okay.
tough, man. Really tough.
Who was the girl that played? What was it? Ursula.
Ursa.
Sarah
Ursa?
Douglas.
Yeah, she was pretty hot.
Yeah. In the movie, I guess the beef is that he just wanted to take over Krypton, right? And he just was like...
Yeah, it was just...
it was just an uprising.
Insurrection, and
Mm-hmm.
they put it down.
And it's probably the same thing that happened in the Silver Age stuff,
Well,
or whenever he was...
And in the
first appeared.
movie, it was Jor-El that was casting the final vote to break the tie between the... Or was it unanimous?
No. If I remember correctly, it was because I think in the special edition you see them whatever they were working on their big scheme, and I'm pretty sure Jor-El had the deciding vote, and then since he also I believe found the Phantom Zone, that's why he was their jailer.
Yeah, because they all said guilty, 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 and then Zod is like, you know, you're whatever you say, we're all going to put it on you and your children's children, and you will kneel and your ass.
Yeah. That's what it had to be unanimous, maybe, to do it to send him into the Phantom Zone.
What was our other question?
How much of the original Superman movie strayed from canon or whatever? Well, we talked about it the other day about the Fortress of Solitude never having been an ice crystal
sculpture
shaped thing. So that was one.
I prefer the original, non-ice sculptured.
Just without the super key.
Yeah, I'll take the super key.
I'll take the super key. That's what makes it Superman.
I'll take the super key.
It's so friggin' lame. That was in the first issue I read in that thing, and there he is picking up the super key.
But of course he would have a key. That's so nobody else can get in.
And nobody else will be able to pick it up.
And he's never going to lose it.
Yeah, but if you look at the animated series, he pretty much just flew down through the Arctic water and then came up inside. So why even need a key? You could just do that way.
Because there was no water.
Because you had a big door and you have to have a big key.
In current comics, does he still have the Terrasact above the Daily Planet?
No.
It's moved down in the Amazon or something now?
Yeah. And we said that's ridiculous. Just make it a fortress.
No, that and the fact that, we were talking about moving from canon, the fact that Jimmy Olsen didn't have red hair, and,
Jimmy Olsen didn't appear in the comics first. He was on radio.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, basically the story's there. Jor-El, nobody believes Jor-El. The planet blows up. He flies away. They find him.
His powers, the manifestation of his powers, was as a baby because he lifted the tractor. Was that always true like that? Okay.
Yeah, they knew who he was. He just didn't don the super suit until he became older. But then they used that on the different Earths. That was one of the reasons for the different Earths, so they could put the Superboy stories into all that kind of stuff. So they could explain that away.
Right. Well, two things. First, I don't think he was powerful enough to reverse the rotation of the.
Oh, you would be wrong because he was moving planets left and right.
Okay.
In fact, there's a funny Peter David in the end of his Supergirl run where the pre-crisis Supergirl comes and she's doing it looks like she's doing a handstand and the Linda Danvers Supergirl is looking at her and go, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm trying to push the Earth. There's a meteor storm coming." She's like, "No, you can't do that. If you do that, you're going to create seismic tidal waves, and you're going to kill a bunch of people." And she goes, "I see But my cousin does this all the time." It was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. But yeah, he was moving planets all the time.
What about
through the sun?
Like in Smallville type of thing, where he didn't just have all the powers right away. That they kind of, as he grew up, he became stronger. His powers slowly started to. Yeah, is that how it was in the comics originally?
I guess you could kind of say because they were adding new stuff as was needed. Yeah, as was needed. So it's kind of similar, but not quite. You know what I mean? And then they shoehorned the whole Superboy thing in there in the Silver Age.
I'm still waiting for them to bring in the super ventriloquism. That's what I'm waiting for.
Or super hypnotism.
Mm-hmm.
He had that, and he also had the super kiss that makes Lois forget.
That's in 2.
He was always.
I'll give her the super kiss.
He was always. Never mind. I was thinking of Green Lantern. Never mind.
Oh. So
getting all that confused as you're reading it all.
Man.
But now also, current continuity, he never had his powers when he was young. That's just Silver Age continuity, right?
As a baby young, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it took till puberty, like the current cartoons and all that have.
Right.
Okay. Oh, really? That's different now.
No. He had his powers. He just never because he was a world. He did the football. He did all this kind of stuff, and he would just hold back. It was like Smallville, where he wanted to do football. And all that, but as long as he held back and wasn't using all of his powers, he could still do stuff like that. It was he always had the powers. Again, he never did it until he went to Metropolis, saved the space shuttle, which is what Byrne put in Man of Steel, and then he got the costume and all that kind of stuff. He just never was Superboy. There was just never a Superboy.
Right. Because as in the Golden Age, he didn't even have parents. They found him and took him to an orphanage. And then adopted him in later stories. I guess they must have looked back on that and said, well, that's pretty cruel. So then they went back and adopted him. It was the Silver Age retelling of his story that that they kept him and raised him. And
Was Paul Kent dead around the time of the movie?
Yeah.
Cause
Pa Kent, it had always been that Pa Kent had died, and Ma Kent had actually, I believe, died too.
They both died. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was never a Ma or Pa Kent again. Then when Byrne revamped it, he decided he thought it was more powerful, and I agree with him that Superman has that connection still with humans, and that he had them alive, and I guess they are both. Yeah, they're both still alive, but they've kind of actually reconned them back into being hipper, younger type Ma and Pa Kent, which I hate.
Kind of like on Lois and Clark.
Yeah, a little closer to their age than in the Byrne. It was more they were in like I'd say their late 60s, early 70s type thing. Now, Ma Kent seems to be maybe in her late 50s, early 60s. Pa Kent seems to be in his 60s, so they kind of de-aged them a little bit. But yeah, they were.
I don't mind that so much for some reason. Maybe because I never read the Byrne.
Well, because they're going to have
like
to.
that.
Or else they're going to have to die. Either they're going to. It's like Aunt May. She's actually 170 years old, but
9 million years
the
old.
The big complaint with Batman that sooner or later Dick Grayson's going to be older than Bruce. But must be they hung around so much kryptonite that was their kind of power that they got, that they didn't age as quick.
Yeah.
So. That does bring a whole interesting question: is how long can you make us believe that these characters are basically the same age? How many years?
It's been 20 years for me. 20-some years.
I really think
Batman's
forever.
been the same age for 50 years now.
And it's worked for all that time. I think if you don't change things and you don't retcon things every now and then, just like DC cleans house every now and then, just like they're kind of doing again, if you don't do it, they'll get stale. You still need some of those anchors. You may say it's stale because they're still around, but if you take all that away, then you got to come up with new stuff, and a lot of times new stuff isn't as interesting as what you've already had. They're great today for a reason. It's just, again, it goes back to who's telling the story.
I guess the problem for me is, if it was just, Peter Parker or Mary Jane and, Aunt May's around and he fights supervillains all the time and it just goes on forever and ever and ever, that's no problem. But then there are things in the Marvel Universe that establish a timeline, like so-and-so are having children, and those children are getting older. Franklin Richards is now older than he was before, and then they have the little sister, and now she's older. Valeria, whatever, is that her name? Mm-hmm. Now she's older. It's like, she was pregnant with her in the Byrne run, which is a long time ago, and she's still like, that wasn't...
You haven't read on with the Byrne.
All right, whatever.
No, Valeria shows up with Doctor Doom. That's a whole storyline years down the road.
Okay, but anyway, so they have but it's like they're establishing that people are maturing.
Yeah.
And like with this Runaways, they just established that a girl from Power Pack is now like an 18, 19-year-old girl. And you're going, okay, all the Power Pack were little kids. And in fact, Marvel just released a Power Pack comic where they're still little kids. So it's like I'm really confused. So they do stuff that says, well, we know that 10 years have passed, but everyone is the same age.
They do that with DC. Nightwing's older. I mean, Tim Drake is now there.
Well, that's what I was going to say. With them bringing in all these younger ones, Tim Drake and Cassie Sandsmark as Wonder Girl and Connor as Superboy. That's the big identity crisis for him.
Yeah.
It makes us realize that, there's the older generation, the middle-aged generation, I guess you could say, then there's the 20-somethings, and now there's the teens. But if, in 20 years, if they create yet another Wonder Girl or another Robin, well, what are you going to do? You're going to bump the teens into the 20s and the 20s the middle, you gotta, at some point, stop.
At some point, Batman's got to go behind the scenes more or less, or be too old to do it every day.
Lazarus Pit.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's how I always hoped that they would do that with him.
Because for me, the superheroes themselves is no problem. I'll just chalk it up to they have superpowers, so it keeps them young. No problem. The suspension of disbelief is there. I'm on board with that. Don't have to have any more explanation. It's all their wives and all their cousins and their Aunt Mays and all that stuff. It's like, well, those people have to start dying, And like J. Jonah Jameson's been the same friggin' age for 40 years.
And the Justice Society's been around since World War II. Well, World War II is going to get further and further away as each decade goes by, and they're also the whole explanation is that they absorbed some magical things, and that's what keeps them vibrant and young. But still, it's like eventually they're going to be about 180. So it's like, how do you? you just got to keep writing and don't pay attention to it. I guess.
Well, there's always ways for writers to go around it. And that's never bothered me. I mean, if it bothered me, then I wouldn't read Peanuts comics. I wouldn't still be watching The Simpsons because he's been in 4th grade for how many years? Going
15,
going on 20,
15, yeah.
getting close to 20.
But
so that kind of stuff has absolutely.
But that's
never
what, like,
bothered
The
me.
Simpsons, everything on the show. I don't even watch The Simpsons, but I mean, from the previews or whatever, everything is consistent. Like they haven't had any new kids. The next door neighbors haven't had any new kids, right? Or so everyone is just, that's real easy to believe because nothing ever changes. But in the comics, they do establish timelines, and then you're left going. Well,
and there's some people who said Dick Grayson never should have became Nightwing because of that. Because now you kind of wrote yourself into a little corner there, and it's like, what do you do? So, but yeah, it's not a perfect. It's not a perfect
and I mean,
world,
like, okay, let's say they kill Aunt May, or she just dies of old age. It's not something tragic. She just dies. Is 40 years of reading about Aunt May, is that enough? Like, is it safe to move on then? Like, and I'm not trying to be a prick. I'm just saying, like, fans, of course, will go, oh my God, you can't kill Aunt May. But really, you go, well, 40 years.
They did. In issue 4,
well,
I mean,
Right, but yeah. I mean, now she's back. But I mean, if they actually said, look, we're killing her for real and this is it, she's done, you can't use her ever again, she's retired. I mean, that's a long time to read about one character, 40 years. I mean, that's probably enough, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. With that character in particular, at least for me, that's always been Peter's anchor. And I just, I think characters and superheroes always need that one anchor character that, I mean, now that they've written her, I'm not really spoiling anything because this was years ago. She kind of knows everything.
Right.
She knows who Peter is. She knows everything. So it's that anchor, and I like that because I always think the heroes are better when they have that. Those people that know. I mean, you can say, yeah, well, MJ knows. Yeah, but still, she's not. She's come and gone in his life a couple times.
Consistent family.
Yeah, she's not family. I mean, he's family, and that's one of the reasons I love what Byrne did, bring the Kents back, and I always like that anchor. So I don't want. Other characters that can change. Other characters can come and go. I mean, if you're talking Superman, Cat Grant can come and go. He's had so many people coming and going in his canon, and that's fine. But there's still certain people that you gotta keep because they are just so archetypical of. And if I'm using that right or not, you need Perry White, you need a Lois Lane, you need Jimmy Olsen, you need J. Jonah Jameson, Robbie Robertson. Even Robbie can go. They had Betty Brant. She's not there anymore. So there's, there are people that can come and go, but you still just need that core group that just doesn't go away.
Well, look at Alfred Pennyworth. He still has black hair. He's not graying at all. And, he was supposed to be a spy at one time during, I believe it was World War II, or around that time.
Yeah, not everybody grays, so that's...
Well, I'm just saying, he never seems to get older or slows down at all. And
well, it's like what they did with Iron Man. He became Iron Man during, I'm not even sure if it was Vietnam. Was it Korea?
It was Korea.
Yeah. And now he became Iron Man during the Desert Storm.
No, it was Vietnam.
Was it Vietnam?
Korea is Reed Richards and Ben Grimm. That's when they met. So
they totally updated him with this Warren Ellis, Iron Man run that he's now everything that, and it's like,
how can they do that?
They just did it.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Yeah, they did.
What are we supposed to just forget that?
See, when it was original,
you forgot that he came back as a small kid in that.
Right. When it originally came out, I don't think they even named the war. I think they hinted.
Yeah, it was a war.
It was just a war. So why can't you just say a war? Even if you want to update it and modern technology, but don't give it a name because then you don't have to put it in a specific time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I also think DC, you can almost look at it as their universe actually starts at Crisis. So, Bruce Wayne's been Batman since the 30s, but if you really think about continuity-wise now,
right,
it's only been since...
They usually always squeeze it into like 10 years, 15 years.
I'm not advocating the death of any major supporting characters. No. I'm just posing the question. Mm-hmm. And then, I also wonder, well, okay, J. Jonah Jameson, right? He's been around in Marvel since the very early on. He's an important character, okay. But couldn't somebody write a new character, a new supporting character? He might just show up in a book tomorrow, and then a year goes by and they're still using him, and then all of a sudden you look around, it's 5 years later, they're still using him, and then suddenly this character could seem like he's been there forever. He's just as important, and then all of a sudden you have new important characters, and then maybe you can start killing off some of the old ones because you have new ones, and maybe they somehow, through excellent writing and 10 years of comics, they become just as important to that character as some of the old timers.
Isn't that what happened with Robbie Robertson? Isn't that kind of?
I would think so, but you
But
got.
he never took over. I mean,
I think one of the things that hurts that theory is just the fact of the number of creative teams that come and go on, and the number of creative teams that want to bring in their own characters and will, like Straczynski could have left Ezekiel, and I don't want to give it too much away, but what they've done with Ezekiel, you're not gonna see another creator use Ezekiel, and it was an interesting character, and they could have kept him around, like you said, worked on him, kept him, but then. Well, the next team that comes in,
I think it kind of
never use him.
I think it kind of has to be some sort of editorial decision and say, look, everybody, write a new character in your book. The ones that end up being pretty good, we're going to decide we're going to keep them, and they're going to be important, and they're going to be untouchable, and then we're going to see where they are 10 years from now. And if they're still cool.
There is a comic that did exactly what you were talking about with Batman. You guys are Batman readers. They but Commissioner Gordon is no longer commissioner.
Yeah, he retired.
Yeah.
So, and they created a new character, a new commissioner, right?
Atkins, yeah.
Right. So they are doing that over there. Now, do you find that's lacking? Is Gordon in every other book? Or
he shows up periodically as pretty much a real confidant to Batman, but not... I mean, well, right now, because of not No Man's Land, War Games, Bats isn't exactly on the best of terms with the police, but every once in a while, you don't really see the bat signal up as much as you used to, or you don't see him going to the police as much. So,
what about the scenes with the new commissioner? Is it?
Well, they don't get along.
So, is it a more interesting story because of that, or do you miss the Gordon stuff?
I personally miss the Gordon stuff just because of their interaction, and you do get that once in a while. But just because of how they wrote the story now, he doesn't go to the police. He's actually on their blackball list, more or less. They don't have a signal. They don't interact. He's just on his own doing his thing as Batman. And it doesn't bother me because the current stories don't necessarily need it, whereas the stories back then were wrote to include Commissioner Gordon. But I do miss it just as a personal fan of Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much known right from the beginning that Atkins, the new commissioner, didn't like Batman, didn't like what he did, but was willing to work with him just because he worked with Gordon all these years. But now I do kind of like when you do see Gordon show up, it's going to be something. It's going to be something important detail of the story. Batman just.
It's almost like they made him even more important by taking the whole commissioner aspect away.
Yeah, and he's still kind of held up in that same regard. I mean, with other officers and stuff like that, and now he could. There's been a couple times where he's not a vigilante like Batman, but he knows connections. He can kind of do more now than he could as a commissioner because of who he is, and he's not
in an official capacity that he'll get in trouble if he does something now.
I guess I just think about it because in Marvel, because I talk about Marvel because I know the most about it, but it seems like basically every core character in Marvel was created within a 5-year period, and then there hasn't been any, real development since then. And you say, well, I mean, there have been new characters added, but I mean, these people that we're talking about, these important figures, were all created in the very beginning. And I guess I just asked the question, why in 40 years can no one else create an important character? You know what I mean? Like, why couldn't somebody in 1978, add some friend of Peter Parker who's now every bit as important as Aunt May? Like, why couldn't they do that?
They have.
Well, where are they?
Wolverine.
Well, no, I mean, I know there are some characters, but I'm saying, especially the supporting character. I mean, there's so few. It's like there's almost no new development ever anymore, it seems like.
I don't think the writers and stuff that go through and read those times and now write, they don't feel a need to do it. They don't feel it's necessary. While I don't disagree that logically it should happen, I don't know that they think it needs to happen.
I think
for me, I just think it needs to happen.
It's more along the lines of the same reason you don't see a lot of new TV series and that kind of stuff. They have to succeed immediately. You can't let them build up. There's no, 50 titles that Marvel will be putting out in a year. there's only maybe 20 titles, and they have to sell this many books. So there aren't a lot of times that they are willing to take that chance. They're willing to maybe, like Gravity, maybe they're willing to give them 4 issues, see how it sells. Again, maybe not selling so great. They'll wait to see, like Runaways, they waited to see the digest sales. Digest sales were good. They'll go with a second series. It's one of those you just can't throw out like they used to be able to throw out new series. I'd almost love to see, and that I've always enjoyed the anthology series, like the DC Firsts, and like a showcase type thing where they could do that. Give me some new characters each month. Let me see a new story being told, maybe 2 issues. Maybe he has a story that'll go through 2 issues. And then from there, from fan reaction, maybe sales, fan buzz, we have the internet, we have podcasting, we have forums. Let's see what out there goes. And I would be willing to see them do something like that, to see what goes on. I'd support something like that, but it's just tough.
You mean like Marvel Fanfare used to do and stuff?
Yeah, like a Marvel Fanfare,
actually, if you look at it,
Spotlight.
I think of Marvel Spotlight, Moon Knight. I mean, shortly after his appearance in The Werewolf by Night, he had 2 issues in Spotlight, and it kind of just that you can kind of showcase somebody new, and he took off for the most part.
Yeah,
I mean, we had recently, X-23. So I mean, new characters can happen, but I guess I'm even talking about.
You're talking about
the
secondary
characters, more so than that's just something they don't need a book. You just write them into the story, you make some reason for them to be there, and then keep them around. Just
now,
keep them.
If you talk about Hush, they kind of did that with Tommy Elliott being an old friend of Bruce Wayne's, and for some people that didn't work. Some people, I didn't mind it.
Because they felt it was shoehorned in.
Exactly, because it was kind of forced for that story.
Well, then if you don't shoehorn it, you instead of saying, "Oh, he's this friend, my best friend for 30 years, and suddenly this is his first appearance." I just say he's a new guy. He met him, and he really likes him.
Suddenly he shows up, and then suddenly a new villain shows up. Well, wait a second. Come on.
They did that with and again, just because it's Batman, and I know that a little bit better. They did that with what's her name, who was in Checkmate, Sasha, and she was very important and prominent in Batman for quite a number of issues until
bodyguard.
Yeah, as his bodyguard, as Bruce Wayne's bodyguard.
For Peter Parker, it could be so simple. He's a teacher now. I don't know if he still is. I
yeah.
Read. Well, couldn't he just get buddy with the math teacher? They sit and have lunch every day, and now suddenly he's his best friend, and he's coming over watching movies with him and MJ, or he and his wife. They're going out and having dinner together or something. I mean, it doesn't have to be earth-shattering at first. You can just establish it, just dabble in it, and then we're going to get used to him. And then we're going to get used to him. And then eventually he's going to be like he was always there, and he's so important in Peter's life. And it's that simple,
Isn't that kind of what happened with Montoya? Going back, like Gotham Central, Montoya. I mean, she kind of just showed up as one of the officers, and then she slowly became a detective, and now she's one of the prominent characters.
Yeah, she and Harvey Bullock were partners, and they had a whole bunch of storylines, and then they kind of delved into her background, I guess, in Backup Stories was detective that they did Backup Stories with her. And and just brought her to the forefront, and now, you're right.
Even Harvey had a lot of, during No Man's Land, you saw him a lot, but, storylines progressed where he just exited.
Yeah, and they went on and used her in the animated series. They used her, so...
One of the things you were talking about, just to jump back on something about... Gravity. He's actually he's in the solicitation anyway. Marvel Team Up 15. There's a whole bunch of secondary characters, and Gravity is one of them. So it's kind of cool that they're using him outside of the miniseries.
Yeah. I love that, and I think the other reason why I like new characters is then you don't get lost in the continuity. You're with it from the beginning. You know everything that's happening to him. It feels good. It feels. It's easy to understand. It's exciting because you're with it on the ground floor, and it's just fun.
Well, Dan DiDio, don't want to mess that up. Dan DiDio often says that they took a big risk trying to plan that out so far because they didn't know if people would respond to 2 years worth of built up to get what we're about to get with DC. And I think Marvel can do it if they wanted to. They probably will. It's just, again, like Jamie said, it's just that instantaneous response you want to get from everybody. It's no patience, fast paced. Everybody has to be gratified right now, right away.
Well, the Young Avengers they're making an impression on people.
Sure.
Yeah,
and they're all basically new.
I'm waiting for the hardcover that I ordered. Yeah.
I'm not reading it, but
no, it's a very good book. I must say, I kind of poo-pooed it when it first came out, but I still picked up the first issue just to read it, and I've been hooked ever since.
Yep, I agree.
Now, one book that if you want to read a book that delves into the fact of people dying and things like that. And I know it sounds like I'm a pimp for John Byrne, but he did Batman, Superman Generations. He's done three volumes of it. And that is the whole point of it. He starts out in like the 20s or 30s when Batman, Superman first came out. He follows them, and you follow the separate generations. I mean, Lois Lane dies.
Dick Grayson.
Dick Grayson. And all his kids come in. They perpetuate the Superman. Superman has kids eventually with Lois Lane. Batman, of course, has kids, and they carry on the mantle of the Bat and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like a full story. And all three have been really good because he's taken different. When he had the original one, he had different ideas on how to take it, and then he's taken Series 2 and Series 3 and kind of shoehorned them all into the original. So if you read all three of them, it's really a nice payoff because you get it's a really good story, and I really enjoyed it. They're all traded, so people want to go out and get the trades. But that's if you want to read a story where what we just talked about does matter. That's the one I can definitely recommend.
And who better to do it through than Superman and Batman?
Yeah, and Superman and Batman, because you can bring all the rest of the DC universe in because they are so iconic, such iconic characters. They go through all the history of the DC universe.
I forgot about that. That is very good because at that time John Byrne was writing something else that I was trying to pick up on. Maybe it was, I can't remember, and I didn't like it. And this came up, and I got it just on a whim because it sounded interesting and so fantastic. I just absolutely loved it right from the start, and I've gotten everything. I wish they would do more. Yeah. I wish you could squeeze more out of that.
There had been talk about him doing that as an ongoing series, and I don't know whatever happened with that. I know now that unfortunately most of his other series are getting canceled, and I know when they do the creative team change at Superman, he's going to end there. So maybe the next thing he'll do will be that.
Yeah, that'd be good. It's very enjoyable.
Wow.
All that from a stinking story about a stinking letter about not stinking letter, but a letter about the worst comic movie ever made.
Again, he's got it. Catherine, you need to just do a Geek of the
Captain
Day.
America? Wait, I thought you hated
Fantastic Four. That he'll rave about, though.
The original one?
No, not the original one. The one that just came out. Much better.
Meanwhile, the Roger Corman Fantastic Four has more in it that's the Fantastic Four than this new one. Jesus.
Outside, let's go right now.
To your Thunderdome.
Dodge the
Hey,
rain.
we're working on an interview with LT and Catherine. She's going to be on the phone. And she's
That's fine with me. Rip me a
I want to be here to listen to that one live, man.
That's fine with me.
Are you on annoyance probation?
No, everybody has their opinions. That's fine.
Yeah, you're stink.
There's a lot of love in the room.
He's getting antsy because it's almost 4. The Eagles game are almost done.
Meanwhile, wait, I'll agree with him there.
We got another half hour.
I'll agree with him there.
Wait. What episode was it that you went to kiss him, though, Peter?
That was Hyper Time.
Oh.
Oh, I remember that one.
We got another one. Whoa. We got another email from Jason from Seattle, Washington. It says, "Hey guys, love the show. I've been a longtime Punisher fan, and when you were discussing what writer-artist owns a character, Garth Ennis came to mind. He completely saved the Punisher from the Marvel powers that be. He and Steve Dillon did a wonderful job with the Welcome Back Frank run, not to mention they killed with Preacher. Ennis's Hitman was different, and his old Judge Dredd stuff is great. Do you guys have any favorite Ennis runs or something of his that I should check out? If he got the time, his new run 303 is pretty damn good. Keep up the great work."
I love that Punisher run. I am not a big Punisher fan, and that Welcome Back Frank series made me love the Punisher.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was a really good run too. And if I had an unlimited budget, I'd be buying the new Punisher series only because he's writing it. Because if Punisher is ever enjoyable, it would be when he's writing it. I'm sure,
That's because he pushes it so over the top. That's what it is. And he has him killing people and all that kind of stuff in more and more ridiculous and funny ways. And but yeah, I agree. I do. I've enjoyed that, and I actually have a couple of the trades that I've picked up at various shows I haven't got a chance to read yet. But looking forward to that.
I did hear it was pretty good. I like the fact that I heard somewhere that they said you have to use Spider-Man in some issues, some Daredevil, and he didn't want to, and they said, no, you have to do it. So then he came up with clever ways of putting them into the storyline where they were team-ups, but they weren't really team-ups, and I've heard good things about it, and
Oh yeah, and every hero gets. Spider-Man got his butt kicked. Daredevil got all tied up.
That
Wolverine
Daredevil,
got
that
his
was
butt
great.
kicked. So it's hysterical.
Well, and then also that whole, because I remember at one time, Frank had died, and then he came back as some stupid storyline. I don't know.
An agent of heaven or something like that.
Yeah. And just like 3 panels into the Welcome Back Frank, that's completely gone. It's like they gave it to me, didn't like it, and that was it. That's exactly how he unexplained everything that just happened.
I'm very interested. I want to, and it's just because of funds trying to get it. I want to get the Preacher trades because everyone here for so many years has raved, and I've never read them. But I think that sounds very good, and people say, man, if you love the Punisher, you're going to love Preacher.
What else has he done?
Well,
outside of that?
just when you were looking through my comics yesterday, that the 3-issue miniseries Adventures of the Rifle Brigade,
Okay.
that was a lot of fun. I mean, it's totally ridiculous fun, but it was good. So.
Again, over the top stuff.
Exactly.
There's one. Is it Dix? Didn't he write Dix? It was like an.
Yeah, that was with him and Mark McCrae. Or
John McCrae?
John McCrae.
Yeah.
What about his Hellblazer run?
Hellblazer one was okay. I don't think it's his best stuff, but they do credit that with the beginning, or at least the fruit of the idea for Preacher, or the the word type thing.
Was the Constantine movie, wasn't that based on a Garth Ennis book or a story from Hellblazer?
I don't know. That was Dangerous Habits. I don't think that was. I think that was the Jamie Delano yet. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Please don't quote me. I'm
yeah, because I thought it was the whole smoke. That's why they did the whole smoking thing.
But he didn't do that one. I because I read almost his entire run, and I did not read those Dangerous Habits. That was like right before he came on to it. Okay. So that's why I was thinking it was Jamie Delano, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
And I'm going to throw in here for any sport fan out there is that today is Eagles-Cowboys, so it is a very important game. And who am not a big sports fan, am dying to watch the game then too.
Damn straight. Stinking Cowboys.
Got my Eagles sweatshirt
I don't care if I just
now it's my turn. Lame sports. Lame.
Alienated everybody in Dallas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, bud.
We got an email here from Derek Lafferty. It's an episode 54 correction. Uh-oh. He says, it was mentioned on your show that Mouse originally ran in The New Yorker. I'm not sure if Mouse was ever printed in whole or in part in The New Yorker, but Mouse originally ran in Raw. Raw was the literary comics magazine and was put out by Spiegelman and his wife Francois Mouly. So
yeah, I have seen that listed. I think Lena Taylor talked about that on her podcast, and I think I may have been the one who said New Yorker. I stand corrected.
No, you're sitting.
No, I stand corrected.
Well, stand up. Get your fat ass off that chair.
Believe me, I want to.
Should we do another one?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, this one is a long one, so we're gonna
Sit
get it out of the way. Greetings, comic geek speakeasies. I'm a writer for comicsnexus.com and spiderfan.org, and I've just recently discovered your site via the podcast directory on iTunes, and I'm now tuning in to hear what you guys have to say every week. I just listened to your show on overlooked Marvel and DC titles the other day, and I thought I would add 2 more excellent books to recommend to your listeners. The first is the charming Aranya, The Heart of the Spider by Fiona Avery and Roger Cruz. While the first Aranya art from Amazing Fantasy suffered from a slow, Ultimate-esque pace, since graduating to its own series, the title has turned into quite an enjoyable romp. Roger Cruz's art style is a delicious cocktail of manga, manhwa, and American-inspired styles filled with a kinetic energy all of its own. Fiona Avery's writing calls to mind some of the great teen books that came out towards the end of the 90s, such as Impulse, Young Justice, and Stars and Stripe. One fairly major complaint, though, maybe if Marvel really wants to promote this book with the Spider-Man family of books, it would be considered prudent to have the character interacting with Spidey on some level. To be fair, in terms of interacting with Spidey, young Aranya Anya Corazon is actually faring much better than New Avengers Jessica Drew, who in the early days didn't even meet Spidey until issue 20 of her own book. A digest of issue 1 through 6 is shipping soon, so check it out. The other book I would like to recommend is the current New Warriors miniseries by Zeb Wells and Scott Young. To be honest, I was quite on the fence about this title for a bit, And, well, let's face it, after Wild Guard, X-Statix, etc., did we really need another reality TV parody? But this title proved to be one of those books that just sneaks up on you. Zeb Wells provides an appropriately light-toned script with a number of laugh-out-loud one-liners. Meanwhile, Scott Young's cartoon graffiti-esque art is a joy to behold, filled with great facial expressions and comically exaggerated body language. Issue 4 is on the stand now, which is August 18th, as a bunch... the bunch so far with a surprisingly sympathetic origin of the team's bumbling newcomer Microbe. On the flip side of things, there's a storyline going on in comics that I absolutely positively beg my fellow readers to stay away from, and that's the War Crimes storyline, which is stinking up the back titles this month. DC's heavy hyping of the Girl Wonder stunt from last year, only to give Steph Brown the woman in refrigerator treatment during War Games, was one of the most craven, cynical, exploitative stunts in recent memory, and this follow-up story 1 year later is actually worse. I do realize that Bill Willingham has done some very good stuff on Fables. This storyline is contrived, lurid disgrace that opens up with Batman hanging a woman in what appears to be an S&M harness and then later plucking out her glass eye.
Yeah, I just read those.
Okay. If that mental image alone doesn't repulse you enough, then the story is filled with ridiculous dialogue. As at one time, the newly bipolar Batman explains, if war crimes were truly committed, perhaps we need to hold war crimes trials and then let all the buried poisons hatch out. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing the people responsible for war crimes taken to The Hague. I don't know what the opposite of frickin' swear is, but it would apply to this book. Keep up the good work, Geek Speakers. Paul.
That's funny. I didn't mind it that as much as he did. I do agree that I did not like that they hyped up that Stephanie was going to be Robin, and then just all of a sudden, that fast, 2 months later, that was kind of shitty for me. But I really enjoyed the rest of that story where where she did end up passing away. But that work crimes, I didn't mind it that much. Some of the dialogue is a little bit iffy, like that thing where he says the war tribunals. But other than that, I didn't mind it nearly that much.
No, there's a couple things I thought were... I hated the ending, but there's a couple things that were pretty good. I liked... nothing really gives away, but how I think it was the third part opened up, where you see that there's kind of a not a vigil, but type of thing for Steph Brown, and even Batman stopped there momentarily. But, hey, all I have to say is, if he didn't like that storyline, then I would definitely stay away from the before War Games storyline and Detective that's, thank God, almost wrapping up because it blows.
Yeah, that I've stayed away from myself.
He made reference to women in refrigerators, and that's the whole when Kyle Rayner became Green Lantern way back. Major Force, the villain Major Force, killed his girlfriend and stuffed her in a refrigerator, and it was this huge. Well, basically, they say anytime something bad happens to a woman, they call it, it's another woman in the fridge, because there's a school of thought, I guess they say that women are always treated badly, or when somebody dies, it's always a woman, and I don't know if I subscribe to that, but that was funny to hear him mention that.
Yeah,
because there was actually a website too that had this whole thing. It was really weird.
Well, would the impact of Gwen Stacy's death be different if it was a guy?
Harry Osborn?
Yeah, if it was Harry Osborn.
I don't know. Probably not. I don't know.
Right, but if you look at Ben Parker when he died, that's pretty much what made Spider-Man decide to be a hero. So that wasn't a.
Well, I think it. I mean,
You're right.
It's the whole perpetuation of violence against women and all that kind of stuff. And I see where they're coming from, and I didn't like it. I also didn't like the fact that they back it up with, I guess maybe it wasn't his mother at the end there. When at the end of the Green Lantern Kyle Rayner run,
right.
I thought, didn't he go back and he thought his mother was in the fridge? He thought Major Force had done that again, but it wasn't. Yeah. So I mean, I agree with it. I don't like to see that kind of stuff perpetuated. I mean, for a story and for shock value, I thought, it's good. But then when you think about it, and you think about a world where where we have kids that can't tell the difference between real and fake when it comes to video games and stuff like that, maybe the writers should be a little more responsible.
Oh, well, that should be parents, not necessarily
I
writers.
don't think I don't think it's the writer's
Yeah, but
responsibility.
it's okay. We're in a whole another.
Well, because
this
was my point. This was what I wanted to say first, though, is that why is it always that when something happens to a woman, it's pointed out, but yet every other issue of a comic, men are beating on each other or men die. I mean, they die just as much as women die in comics. So why is it in a world where there's superheroes and you know Superman could come crashing through your building? There's going to be some major deaths going on, you know. So
I guess maybe the argument there is that women are always portrayed in such a bad light as far as that, you know, like stuffing in a fridge, hanging on a wall. You know, it's so graphic, whereas guys just get beat up and die. It's not nearly as masochistic. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
I have two words: Blue Beetle.
That's one example, though.
I could probably think of more.
Well, you know what, and I can't put, like, for instance, with Batman Begins, you know, truthfully, if you read Batman comics, there isn't really a love interest. Every once in a while, something comes along. I mean, I understand for eye candy, you want a female in there to kind of a damsel in distress, but you really don't need, you know, just because a woman's in danger, that's not what motivates Batman. It's he wants to protect Gotham. So it could be a guy there that's in danger, and he's still gonna, you know, Gothamite, he's gonna save it. So there's certain times where you don't need the cliche damsel in distress to motivate the hero, because he's already going to be motivated.
But it's all about damsels, and I mean, I am by no means, you know, saying, you know, let's kill more women in comics. That's not what I'm saying. But comics is always about Superman saving Lois Lane. Yeah, it's funny because you know, you even said about way back where you're like, you know, it's never going to change. Women are always going to be this way, and I'm not saying that I want stories to be this way, but I also don't have the venom when something like that does happen, like some people did online when they shoved his girlfriend in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Oh, I you know, again, I'm not. I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying, from their point of view, it's you know, just the objectifying of women, the, you know, the devaluing of a woman's life, all that kind of stuff. You know, worrying about our, you know, male youth of today who can't seem to tell the difference between fantasy and reality. You know, we see more 10 and 12-year-olds that are, you know, kill their little brothers doing wrestling moves or with a gun, not realizing the consequences of what's happening.
Your parents should step in and.
Well, yeah, and I agree with that. You're right. The parents are the ultimate, and I'm not taking anything away from the parents because I don't agree that the gun should be in the house. I don't agree that, you know, maybe at 10 years old and he's watching wrestling, the parents have to sit down and say, now you don't perform this move on your 3-year-old sister. You know, things like that. You're right. The parents are the ultimate, you know, censors, and they should be the ultimate censors, and that's the way it should be. I mean, my parents brought me up that way. I knew the difference between fantasy and reality. I never, you know, tried to jump off the roof thinking I could fly with a Superman cape or anything stupid like that because I knew it wasn't real. But in this day and age,
because your ladder wasn't long enough.
well, yeah, the roof was just way too high. But, you know, in this day and age, it just the line is so blurred. I mean, I see, you know, we're getting off on an entirely different tangent, and it's, you know, just, you know, when I see, I'm driving into work and I'm driving up past our, you know, our big high school, the Reading High, and I see the way these girls are dressed, and it's just like they are. The line between sex is now blurring. You know, and these are like 10, 12-year-old girls that are walking in things that you know, it makes my head go, whoa. And then I see that they're 10 and 12. I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah. Is that what you're thinking?
No, Matt. We're being serious. And it's just a whole, you know, and you're right. The parents are the ultimate censors, and the parents are who should, you know, show them right from wrong. But then again, they don't need that stuff bombarded into a medium that we are supposedly giving children and children supposedly reading. They don't
supposedly,
and as I say, supposedly, but not. It's, you know,
because my whole thing is like coming from theater. I never think the arts should have to explain themselves, and I never think anybody who creates art should have to explain themselves because that's what art is about to me.
Interpretation.
Yeah, it's about your interpretation, and if you're not smart enough to know what, you know, if you're not smart enough to know, you know, right from wrong, left from right, whatever, when you're looking at a painting, when you're reading a comic, that's on you. That's not on the writer, you know, or the creator. That's how I've. So, you know, I don't know.
It's kind of like a Rorschach painting. You're going to see what you want to see in it.
Right. Exactly.
But
and
I
like,
totally
why are you? Because you brought this up before. Why were you smart enough not to know to jump off the building? But kids today, why are we assuming that they're not smart enough?
Because I don't believe the parents are involved in their children's lives as they
Exactly.
once were.
That's the whole.
Well, and that's
problem.
the
It
whole-
has nothing
and
to
I
do with the material.
Because
And I'm not. This isn't a blanket condemnation on parents nowadays and all that kind of stuff. But I also think they're getting. There are parents that are becoming parents when they shouldn't become parents, or parents now that are need parents. There are parents that are having their children that are having children that still need their parents to tell them what to do.
The problem is parents are trying too hard to be friends with their kids and not parents.
Exactly.
I never had to have my mom say, "That's a cartoon. That's fantasy." It never even crossed my mind. Like, that conversation never even came up. Why? Because I know,
And the other trend that my parents notice a lot is when you have two working parents, which was not quite as common when we were kids, but is now extremely common now. So the kids go to daycare or whatever all day long, and the parents get home late because they work until 5:30, and until they pick up the kids, and they don't get into the house until 6:30 or whatever, and it's their bedtime, but they're not going to send them to bed because they feel guilty that they haven't spent any time with their kid because they haven't seen them all day because they've been working. And then, so now it's basically give the kid whatever they want because mommy and daddy feel guilty because we don't spend any quality time with our children because we're both at work. And then, read this book you shouldn't be reading, watch this TV show you shouldn't be watching, play too many hours of video games without explanation or whatever, because they basically give them anything they want, which also turns them into raving, screaming brat kids that you see all over the creation when you go out or your friends come over with their kids and you go, oh my God, I'm going to kill them because they have no self-control. And that's one thing that has changed from when we were kids. It was not, there were certainly kids who had parents who both worked, but it was not like, 4 out of 5 kids at school was both parents worked. It was the other way around.
I was at the post office, just to go along with what he's saying, the other day, and this little girl was like, yip, 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 running. And the mother, if that would have been my mom when I was in, all she would have done is just look at me. What this mother did was whipped out her little PSP, whatever the hell that thing, and said, here, play with that.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, what are you teaching the kid?
Right.
I go chase after, I either look, snap, and my one comes back, or I go grab him and I bring him back. There's no, here, play with this while you're standing.
Well, and Shane, as being the only father in a room, I don't know how you do it, but I think that timeout stuff is bullshit. When I grew up, if I did something wrong and it was deservingly where I wasn't listening, it was a spanking. And my younger sister, she wasn't spanked, and we're completely.
And now she's a crack whore. See, look what happens when
exactly. She's out on 4th and whatever.
I just don't. The whole, because when they start saying things like that, it just reminds me of the whole Wortham, going after the comics because they're bad influence, and it's like.
Well, and when you said about Blue Beetle, you're right. That is very graphic, but I think, and for whatever reason, women are always thought as, they did something else to her, like
rape.
Yeah, more or less. Like,
look at Sue Digby.
Yeah, for that, and it worked for that storyline. I guess it was for shock to a certain extent, but I think if you see the end result of some woman hanging on a wall like they did in that one Batman story, where you see her stuffed in a refrigerator, you think something else must have happened, and I think that's just an automatic assumption that's made. Whereas with guys, if Blue Beetle shot, you don't think that Max Lord did anything funky with him. You know what I mean?
I think it's art
it's
imitates
a perception.
Art imitates life, and if you read the crime logs in the newspaper or watch the news, more women or whatever are getting murdered or beaten up or whatever, and that's a whole nother discussion. But unfortunately, that's the case, and so people write about what they know, and that's what happens.
Well, let me ask you, going back to with Kyle Rayner and his girlfriend in the fridge, do you think if he had a brother and his brother wound up in the fridge, it would be any less of, I'm pissed off at this guy?
Yeah, nobody would have cared. They wouldn't have cared. It wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have created a whole website.
It would have had the same kind of effect. So I don't think if it's someone that close as a girlfriend, I'm not familiar with that time in his life, but I'm assuming that it was someone that he really cared about, really loved.
His girlfriend, yeah.
That they've been dating for a while, that if it was brother, he would the same kind of reaction, so it didn't matter if it was a guy or a girl, it just happened to be a girl.
As far as his character and story, yeah, I agree. But as far as fans, I don't think it would have gotten any reaction.
Yeah.
But I agree with what you're saying. If it would have been his brother or his father or something like that, yeah, absolutely, for him as a character in the story, it wouldn't have had any difference. But as far as a fan base, it would not have created as much of an outcry, maybe.
But these are the same people that'll go see Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or go see a football game and look at the cheerleaders. You know, it's like, I guess it's because everybody's hypocritical, I think, when it comes to this kind of conversation, you know, and I just think it's
Well, look at Death
know
in
what
the
it is.
Family. Look at Death in the Family with Jason Todd. I mean,
oh my God, yeah, they
Bruce saw him
wanted to
as
kill
his
him.
son.
Kill him.
Yeah.
Why was that okay? Why, you know, I don't know. And I'm not. I don't even know what the argument is that I'm even trying to say. But I don't get so worked up about it. You know.
You just take it as face value that it's a story being told, and it's not something that you're going to enact or imitate.
But I also know that I'm not going to do that in my life.
That's
so,
what I'm
so
saying.
I'm not
Well,
gonna,
and here's the thing for me, because I'm not racist or sexist or any kind of ist. I don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't enter my mind. You know what I mean? If I'm making a joke, and it's about, a WAP. Well, I can, I'm part Italian. I can make a WAP joke. I don't care.
Jamie back, hold him back.
But if you want to make a joke about a black guy or a Hispanic guy or whatever, I'm not black, I'm not Hispanic, but it doesn't offend me. It doesn't sound. It's just like we're all on even ground. If I see a guy killing a woman in a comic book, okay. I don't think that, oh boy, that's sexist because I'm not sexist. So it doesn't even enter my brain. It never even occurs to me that might be, offensive or sexist or something, because I don't see the world in that way. So it's so easy for me that none of this stuff affects me in any way, shape, or form, because I'm not that doesn't, whatever.
Now
Like we got some emails that I never read on the air, but I responded to privately about when we were talking about the Tom and Jerry cartoons and the blackface mammy or whatever and all this stuff, and we said, just leave it in. It's not teaching anybody to be racist. And we got a couple emails from people saying, well, it's kind of offensive because of this reason, and there were some historical points.
It is offensive, but you know what? America was offensive. We did in our propaganda call Japanese Japs and things like that. Why are we afraid of that kind of stuff?
Well, right,
it's our history.
But they're saying, well, we can learn from our mistakes and we don't need to perpetuate the racism which we used to have. And I can understand that side, but I can also say as a living participant that it didn't make me racist to see Tom and Jerry's maid, swat him with a broom or whatever. Because I'm completely blind to that, because it doesn't enter into my thoughts ever any second of any day. And so
here's an example.
I think it's only people that are affected by it that
or who have that little twinge in them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like here in Reading right now, there's a school that the school district that's up in arms because some kids were flying the Confederate flag. Now, I don't know those kids. Maybe they are racist. Maybe they are, whatever. I don't know. But then there were some black students who were offended by that and who, said we want to take it down, whatever. But then I have to ask, why isn't that same kind of emotion? Is that same kind of emotion sent to all those record companies and those artists who like gangster rap, who use the N word constantly in their music? So why is that?
Why can't you just say the word nigger rather than say N-word?
I mean,
if we're really getting into this kind of...
Exactly. But meanwhile, it's like it only affects the person when it affects them, when it has something to do with them. I could walk in the middle of downtown Reading, which is not the greatest area, and I see Puerto Ricans hanging out on their porches all the time, and you know what? I walk through there, and I'm the first one to go, those spics up there need to do something with their life. And I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel sometimes. And I'm sure we all feel that way about certain people. And that's how I am. But you know what? I don't get offended by stupid shit like a Confederate flag. The South lost. Let them have their flag. You know what I mean? We're still worrying about this 100 years later. I know there's all kinds of stuff wrapped up into it. But why aren't you going after gangster rap if you're going after Confederate flags?
I live that struggle every day. My youngest brother has Down syndrome, so he is retarded. So every time that somebody says, "Oh, that's so retarded,"
and you know what? Every time I say it, I think about your brother and I go, damn it.
A part of me goes, oh, you son of a bitch. But I'm not going to make a big deal about it, because you know what? 99.9% of the people in this world don't have a sibling or a cousin or somebody who's retarded. And they don't think about it. I used to say, oh, that's so gay, or what a fag, all the time. Then I worked for 3 years at a company that was run by a woman who was a lesbian. And you learned real quickly that you can say the F word all day long at the office and no one cares. But if you say, oh, that's so gay, hoo-hoo, you might as well be right out there. We'll carry your shit right to the car because you're gone. And so now, just because from habit, I don't say that's so gay anymore, And, but
yeah, that's gay.
You learn you whatever affects
Yeah,
you
they're
is
social-
what you're
yeah,
sensitive
right.
to. But the question is, how sensitive do you need to be? Is it going to ruin my life when somebody says that's retarded? It's not going to ruin my life. I'll just move right on.
Well, and I have to say, it's getting to the point where we're becoming too politically correct. Where everyone's you gotta,
And that's what I mean.
walk on eggshells. But you know what? It's when people say, you're a son of a bitch. My first reaction is, oh, my mom. Now I don't take I bust. If you make fun of me, you make fun of my mom, you make fun of my friends. I always think, well, who the fuck are you? That's why I don't take it personally. I have a thick skin,
Right.
And I guess sometimes some of my things I say are over the line because I figure everyone should have a thick skin. Because who am I? If I make fun of Peter because he's a Hispanic, who the hell am I to matter to Peter? I mean,
You know why? You know why I don't get offended? Because I'm not Hispanic. I'm American.
that's right.
I've never thought of myself as a Puerto Rican. I am American, and you know what? That's how I. There's so many things I love that are American. Comic books, tap dancing, Hollywood. America. We have our own culture. Why do we need to be Hispanic American? Why
Italian
do we need
American,
to be Italian
Irish American, yeah.
We're American, and I think that's why other countries laugh at us, because we have
divided.
this pride and we have this national pride. But yet we are so divided
We
in our own country.
subcategorize ourselves.
I know, and it's like if you I just don't get it.
It should be almost like Brian
And we
says,
totally went off on.
it's like water
on
down
other
off a
things.
duck's back. It should just roll right off, and you can't worry about it.
Well, and you know what? I'm not a racist. I'm not a sexist. No matter what kind of comments. To me, I'm an. If you piss me off, I'm definitely going to make fun of your ass.
You're an
It's
equal
just-
opportunity hater.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I'm not a racist. I hate everybody.
I hate everybody. Irritate, instigate, aggravate, pissing the world off one person at a time. But it's just one
I
of those
can't
things.
wait to hear the emails we get from this.
Oh, boy.
Woo.
Hey, to go back to this guy's email.
Oh, we have
Sorry.
an email?
The first comic that he recommended, the Aranya, I haven't picked it up yet, but because it's digested and it does look interesting to me, I do plan on getting it. Probably when I see a digested 50% bin. And
I would never read a comic about a Latina.
Good segue, Peter.
Yeah, thanks. See how I tied it in?
right,
I
exactly.
tied it in a comic.
So, I'll take your word for it, and I do want to read.
Only if she
Aranya.
learns English.
Meanwhile, we got these two over here who are going to
they're
go
like,
watch a
they're
game.
looking at their watch every 10
Yeah,
seconds.
no, they're going to
No,
watch
no,
a game
no.
where grown men are beating the hell out of each other for millions of dollars, but there's cops dying out on the streets for $50 a week.
I will never
So,
Yeah, see, exactly. But we're
Never-
worried about women dying in comics. You know,
never
you-
compromise
No,
my comic book talk to football, though. I'll stay forever if that's what it takes.
I don't know. I mean, I agree.
I don't even know what I agree with.
the
Actually,
political correctness, I agree with going way over the line. There's times,
And that's why I don't make a stink when someone says it's retarded, because it's I'm going to let it up to somebody on the individual basis to become mature about each individual topic until they're being politically correct, not because they're supposed to be politically correct, but because they're a pleasant person to be around. Like a mature person or whatever. Like and so I don't want anybody to be politically correct. Just if you know me and you know that my brother's retarded, when you're talking to me, don't say the word retarded. When you're talking to anybody else, use it as much as you want. What the fuck do I care? When you're talking to me,
right?
Respect me enough to know that that's probably not a good thing to say.
I see our conversations are going to be very short, though. No gays, no retards.
Well, I don't care about the gay thing
okay.
now. I'm not working there anymore. But
Well, the
It's just
conversation
like-
just got a little bit longer.
it's just like ingrained in me to not say. But go ahead, Jamie.
I actually don't even know where I was going with it. But no, it's to me, it's more just along the lines of, I don't like to see certain things perpetuated, and even though I didn't take that much of an offense with the girl's body stuck in the refrigerator, I still kind of thought, even when I read it, that's kind of pushing it over the line. Same way when I saw the Blue Beetle, and they put it full on screen, gun to the head, brains blown out all over the place. They didn't need to show that. You didn't need to see that. You could see that off camera. Same way with her in this refrigerator. You could have had the reaction shots. And, oh my God, I can't believe what he did to her. You didn't need to see it. And I'm pretty sure you saw it. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah.
And it's
Sort of.
just one of those things that, yeah, I'm not saying censorship, but I'm saying to the writer and to the artist, just think sometimes before you put it down. If you're doing it for shock value, which I'm sure is exactly what they were doing on both accounts, that's one thing. Then they have to live with it. But you can't expect to please everybody, and I don't think
No. And
I don't think you should strive for that either.
No.
I'm against like the whole labeling of music and all that kind of crap, because my parents knew when I was a kid if I asked for something by Black Megadeth, I think they pretty much could realize that maybe this isn't what their 8-year-old should be listening to. And it goes all the way back to just become involved in your kid's life. Talk to the other parents. Everybody, all the parents know what the bad stuff is, what the good stuff is, what it shouldn't be, and just be parents.
This is a country that screams and hollers about Janet Jackson, but has embraced the Osborne family.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this,
What the hell?
again, we're going off on our probably fourth tangent.
Yeah.
This is a country that just it goes right back to the whole Puritan roots, is so afraid of sex that it isn't funny. Anything sexual they are so afraid of, but say fuck, damn, shit, all that kind of stuff, and they're fine with it. Blow people away, have people dismembered on
pun?
Have people dismembered on movies and on TV, and they're fine with it as long as it's violence. They don't care. But oh my God, show a bare breast with a nipple covered on it on the Super Bowl for 5 seconds. When I saw it, I didn't even realize what I saw.
No. And that's the other thing is that
Don't make a big deal.
yeah, just
they make such a deal of it that then you become aware that you're like, that is what I thought I saw that I wasn't sure of before, but now I saw it 50 times.
The greatest part is it's so ridiculous because I don't have the statistics in front of me, and I don't know if they've changed over the years, but it used to be that in Europe, where they're so free with sex, and it's commercials have naked women drinking orange juice to sell the oranges or whatever, it's no big deal. Their sex crimes there's a lower percentage of sex crimes in Europe than there are in the United States. It's like, maybe if we weren't so pent up about our whole, we'd actually have a more peaceful society, where it'd be safer for women if we were allowed to see nudity on TV, and not just nudity on TV, but the whole, go nude beaches and blah 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 blah. And it's just not a big deal, right? It's nothing to be ashamed of. And like that's
or like
how do we solve
like
the problems?
I wonder if a mother saw that, would see that DC Countdown and would see that Blue Beetle. Oh my God, my kid's reading this, blah 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 blah. I bet you if you go in that kid's room, he's got Vice City or what's the one where he's got Doom where
Grand
you're
Theft Auto.
Yeah, you're killing people all left and right, but that's okay. Mortal Kombat with the blood codes. I mean, it's like, what? I don't get it. I don't get this.
And why is it okay for a guy to be topless but not a girl? I find that more offensive.
I've been arguing that for years.
we
what
all
happened
have
to equal
nipples.
rights, damn it?
It's just the manner in which the skin is folded around.
so
And because there are some, if you're a really, really flat-chested woman, can you take your shirt off?
Yeah.
No, right?
New York City, I think you can, though, now, can you?
Well,
Fair
yeah,
women's breasts.
there was a rule in New York City that if you wanted to
you're
sunbathe
titless?
topless, you could, as long as you didn't act in a lewd manner or something. So if you just laid out on your towel, took your top off for 2 hours in Central Park, and then went about your business, that was okay. Of course, I don't know that anyone's taking them up on that offer, but
Women's bodies are like such a beautiful piece of art, and then guys are just like, ugh. Why wouldn't you not want to see more women topless and just have it part of society?
wow.
I'm going to end the show right there.
Yeah, who knows what the hell kind of emails we're going to get from this? I mean, and
We need a controversial episode.
every now and then we got to push the bar.
Okay. If you want to send us an email, which I'm sure you will, it's comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. Visit our website at www.comicgeekspeak.com. Big thanks to Bob at GameCircuit.net for hosting the show files, and big thanks to UpAllNightGaming.com for hosting the website. I don't care. They can bitch all they want. It's a free country. Well, as long as Bush is not in office. If you please vote for us on Podcast Alley and subscribe using iTunes. And if you want to buy a T-shirt, they're $10, include shipping. You can get one on our website. Anything else, guys? That's it. All right.
We've pissed off enough people.
All right. As always, we're brought to you in conjunction with World Famous Comics, and we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.